we're going to start in about a minute. Let people get on. Today we're using an iPad, so we're going to experiment. When you guys come on, just comment where you're watching from as we wait for 4 o'clock to begin. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we're going to start very soon. Very, very exciting and fun talk today. Very special guests, my mom. Oh, all right, it's 4 o'clock. Okay, everyone, welcome to another, I guess we can call it an episode now. I'm still thinking of a name, of interviewing different individuals in the LD world, from dyslexics and ADHD people themselves, to parents, to educators, to professionals. And today, I'm going to be interviewing my own mom. And what we're going to be talking about are all these different aspects of how do you parent and raise an LD child. We're going to talk about different successes. We're going to talk about communication strategies. We're going to talk about navigating new learning environments, transitions, habits, routines, all the things. And without further ado, I'm going to be introducing you to my mom, Lauren.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. And if you have questions at all, as I always say, comment below and we'll be answering them as we go. Okay, so let's start off by talking about transition, because we're in a totally new learning environment. As you all know, kids are home from school, they're navigating new learning environments, and for someone who learns differently, that's very challenging. And I wanted to open up to you, Mom, Lauren, if you could just talk about transition and transitioning from elementary to middle school, and from middle school to high school, then high school to college. So what was that like for me? And if you could just start from the beginning and share a little bit, that'll be great.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I would only do this for you because I'm very shy on camera, so it's not my thing. But for you, I will be here.
So honored.
It goes much beyond elementary to middle school to high school to college. It goes all the way back to when Daddy and I would say, okay, let's clean up, and you would have a tantrum at having to do that because we were getting ready to end what you were doing and playing with to doing the next thing, and so we noticed right then and there that, and for many kids, most kids learning to LD or not, transitions at a young age are difficult. But we got into, okay, Jake, 5 minutes left, 5 minutes until we have to clean up, 4 minutes until we have to clean up, so on and so forth. So
still happens sometimes.
So
just kidding.
We knew that was kind of a parenting technique that we had to quickly assume to make that be a smooth transition from one activity to the next, from, getting ready for bed to bedtime, and that was odd. And so going from elementary to middle school, I would say was a transition that we were least prepared for.
Right.
Least prepared for, and it was really an upsetting, difficult transition that we had to embrace.
So let's make the picture more known here. So back in middle school, in elementary school, this was the time where in third grade I was first diagnosed with learning disability. And third grade, fourth grade and fifth grade was this time period of experimentation. And then my parents thought, as soon as, they had a whole plan in place for sixth grade, that transition. But it didn't go as planned, or did it?
It did not. It did not go as planned. We had all the testing, and we met with the team that was going to take over from elementary to middle school, and we thought we had a great plan in place until you got there and you were going at your pace, maybe 35 miles an hour, and everybody else was going 60 miles an hour, and it completely backfired on all of us. You, me, and Daddy, and the educators, and what it showed up as from our end was you were stressed, you were anxious, you were scared, and what the teachers and the school got was they deemed you a behavioral problem, but you weren't that. You were stressed and fearful and had a lot of anxiety, and we had to then switch gears and figure out our next move.
Right. And I mean, the behavior problem for the parents watching this, I'm sure when your child's a behavior problem, there must be something that is underneath that behavior. Maybe they're not being reached. And for me, when it came to reading, I was that during independent reading time because I'm an auditory learner. And that was something that we discovered later on. But in the moment, that was my issue, was that I'm a behavioral problem. So here we are in sixth grade, and what's happening?
We're basically going the first few months of the school year, and we're watching this unfold, and we're watching our really happy, pretty high-functioning child go into this, what seemed to us like somewhat of a depression, not wanting to go to school, locking yourself in the bathroom, and by December of this first year in middle school, we really had to make some decisions. The gut feeling that we had as parents was telling us that this wasn't a safe place for our child, and we had no plan other than we pulled Jacob out. We pulled you out of school, and it didn't matter to us. It didn't matter. School, education, nothing mattered but Jake's well-being. And I am sure that many of you parents who are having children with lots of different learning difficulties, challenges, you want to just protect your child. And there comes this fine line, this balance between knowing what's in your heart, what's in your gut, and what the educators are saying, and it's overwhelming when it's a difference in opinion, and you have to make a decision as a parent.
Right. And as a parent, I'm sure all you want to do is protect your kid. And if your kid's not being reached, and if your kid's being misunderstood in school, you want to freak out at the school. And, you keep saying we, as in you and Dad. Mm-hmm. And what was that like? How did you and Dad communicate to each other? And what are some tips that parents can take based off your communication you had when you first found out that I had a learning disability? And what was that communication? You can walk us through that.
So, there was a lot of, I wanted very badly Jacob to stay in the public school because I felt that they were gonna find a way to make this good for him. And Dad, my husband, was very adamant about getting Jacob out of the situation. And so it became my battle, David made his decision that this is what he wanted, and I said, okay, let me just work with the school and see if I can, come to a situation where I felt comfortable that Jake was going to be in a safe environment and they had his back. And it ended up that they just couldn't get past this kid who was acting out and was a behavioral issue. And that was where I had to draw the line, that these people only see my kid as a behavioral issue, and not that this is a great kid who has a lot to offer, who has a ton of potential, and let's just see if we can figure out a different plan for him to get past this stress and to make him a little bit more comfortable, and that just never happened. So we made the decision to pull Jake out of school.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. Guys, thanks again for watching this. I know if you have any questions, go ahead and ask away. And I do want to talk about a little bit more in detail on communication, because I was very sensitive, and I still am, as an auditory learner. I'm very sensitive to different tones and expressions. And I remember when we were younger that there was many conversations on how you were working on shifting the way you spoke to me, because every time you would tell me to do something, or if I did something wrong, then I would get upset, I would get angry. And it's not that you were saying anything wrong, but the way you said it was, it triggered me. And I'm sure there's a lot of parents that have kids that have very similar experiences like this, where your child is, you're not angry, but the child's reacting in that kind of way. So how did that impact the communication to me? And did you ever have a hard time communicating to me after you found out that I had a learning difference?
So it took me, it's very difficult to think that you were not behaving in a way that was oh, you're doing this on purpose, or you're not trying hard enough. And it wasn't until you got to Eagle Hill, which is now the Southport School, that I was told to they've got this, and they're going to work on your education, and that I needed to work on my relationship with you, and to know that you're not trying to behave badly, and you're not trying to do things on purpose, that you really, a lot of patience is needed to deal with a young lad like yourself. Yeah,
I'm a lot of patience indeed. But I like that though, because I know that there's a lot of parents that I've spoken to and kids that I mentor that have this challenge of communication. Mm-hmm. And it's not, if the child reacts, there's a story that I was once told, and this is so good, but there's a story of this kid that was going to karate, and all he wanted to do was to pass this belt. He wanted to go to the next level in karate, but he didn't pass. He comes back in the car and he's upset. I hate this. I hate karate. I hate myself. I hate you. And does this child actually hate himself, hate karate? Or is there something that's underneath his reaction? Right? That thing underneath the reaction, maybe it's fear of social isolation. Maybe it's fear of missing out and not being with his friends. So I would hear things and then I would react, and that reaction may not have been what I was physically saying, but could have been an underlying, there could have been something underneath that, which, going back in school, was the behavioral challenges that was coming out.
Well, I think one of the things that I learned early on, and we're not all confident in every aspect of parenting, but one of the things I learned early on was not to take your behavior, your levels of frustration, your anger as a personal attack on me, and Dad as well did not feel that it was a personal attack And so to take the behavior of a frustrated child personally is the most counterproductive thing you can do.
Right.
We as parents, it's our job to figure out a different way to communicate what we're trying to say. If our children are getting frustrated or feel frustrated with a situation, it's up to us to tell them to help them look at things in a different way, and that you don't hate karate, or you don't hate your teacher. Let's figure out what is the problem, and
Right.
not to take behavior personally.
Right.
It's really, really
Right.
important.
I want to take this a step further, though, because for a lot of parents, especially parents with dyslexia, kids with dyslexia, when it comes to reading there are so many fights around reading. And if you guys agree, just let me know, okay? Reading is the foundation of all these, reading and math. I think math and reading for me was the most challenging when it came to homework. And that was tough. There would be fights. I would lash out. I would cry. When I would read, I would get physical stomach pains, right? Heather agrees. Thank you, Heather. I would get physical pains. I would start crying. And how do you parent a child that is having physical pains, that's crying? He can't read. He doesn't want to do math. Now we're home and parents are trying to work, and you have a kid at home that is not wanting to do homework because it's hard for them.
And it becomes difficult for the parents as well, because, parents are not all cut out to be educators. So,
right.
Especially in this situation, to, have their day job, now to be helping the kids, focus on their homework. It's very challenging to be creative. And, I came to parenting with my own learning challenges growing up. So I relate to you and your issues and challenges and fears over reading and math, because they were as well my issues with reading and math as well. So
did you feel like that helped you parent me through these challenges because you saw yourself in me, or did you find that was going to bring up traumatizing experiences when you were younger, and therefore was there any resisting of what do I do?
No, I think we got early on the greatest advice for a child who has auditory processing issues.
This is a good one, I think. I don't know it yet. Tell me.
Is listening to books on tape, on audio.
Oh, yeah.
That was, I grew up in a household where reading a hard copy book was the only way you got credit for reading. Audiobooks was really not something I knew about until we got that from you were in third grade when we learned about that.
Right.
And that was how you became a reader.
Right.
And that counts.
Right.
People don't think that listening to books counts as reading, but that counts as reading.
It does. And I share this story all the time. But I was rereading my third grade report cards, and there was a 2-paragraph analysis of my year, and 8 of those sentences talked about my behavioral problem during independent reading time. And I was really good at class discussion, class projects, but as soon as it came to independent reading time, I had to be more in control of my behavior. So looking back, I'm like, duh, that makes so much sense. If only they put headphones on my ears, everything would be solved. No, they didn't. And that I think that's super important for us as parents to, well, I'm not a parent, for you guys as parents, to remember, because what it says on the report card, or even what it says on the IEPs, doesn't necessarily mean it defines the child, right? Now I want to talk about IEPs for a minute, because on my IEPs, what I'm doing now, what I did in my train set, is the opposite of what was written on my IEPs. So let's talk about this, because I feel like for some parents, especially parents that I've spoken to, when they get that IEP, it could be derailing. It could be, wow, my child has all these problems, and what am I going to do in college? I want my kid to go to school, but like, what's going on? So let's talk about this for a minute.
So, college and all those things that we think we come to the table with as parents, as new parents, and as we start our parenting careers, all of those, yeah, sure, you can have your hopes and dreams for your child, but once you start putting them out there as opposed to and not embracing or getting distracted by, wait a second, this is what's happening with my kid right this minute, and it doesn't seem like my hopes and dreams for my child it's not going in that direction. You gotta switch gears. Transitioning as well for us parents is difficult, and that was something we had to do really fast for Jacob, because we needed to preserve and protect and nurture this child who was starting to fall apart in front of us. And so what really simultaneously saved him when we pulled Jake out of middle school was building a train table for Jacob in our basement. And we chose to build a train table so he can create a model railroad. But Jacob was so creative with putting Legos together and following directions from the beginning. You have a gazillion Lego pieces in front of you, and all of a sudden, within days, Jacob had this amazing structure that resembled what was the picture on the package. But this was a kid who couldn't follow directions, and this is a kid who couldn't hold his attention to do anything of that nature. And Jacob constantly proved that wrong, because he was passionate and interested in what he was doing. And that is really, what Jacob is all about with his Superpowers Consulting is finding that passion that for your child that really helps them focus on something and makes them feel good and confident about it.
That's so awesome. And you know what? You're right. I mean, and it's not just me discovering these super abilities that we have that we naturally gravitate to. These are so many kids. Every kid has this. I mean, if your child plays Minecraft, comment below. Let me know, because Minecraft is like the digital version of a model railroad. It's a virtual world. It's a virtual world. And when I work on with my kids that I mentor, this is what I tell them. I say, look, I have my model trains, you have Minecraft. And you gotta have boundaries. You gotta have boundaries like with everything in rules. But that is a way to express a world that you're in total control of. And you can build a mountain, you can build a house, a mansion, you can play with your friends. That is using a mind in this world that helps you feel in control, because it's all you. And that was me. I don't think Minecraft was around when I was in 6th grade.
Thank God, because it's so out of my element. But for all of you parents who have kids who play Minecraft, I don't even know. I haven't even looked at it. So maybe that's, my bad, but I'm very happy.
I think all parents are figuring this out as we go. This is a work in progress, this whole technology gaming thing. So wow, that's so great. And I think, there was someone commented, I want to go back up here. Bethany said that the sad part is that even when parents ask for these things, they're being denied to parents and students in IEP meetings. Can you tell me, what was it like being in those IEP meetings? How did you have, how did the conversation go? Did you and Dad have a strategy going in, or did you know anything about it?
I guess in retrospect, I know so much more now than I did back then. Parenting is overwhelming. we can have a really long list of what we should have done, could have done, wish I had done, and in those meetings, I definitely was a listener. I knew when I heard something that I didn't like, and I definitely would have liked to have played a more proactive role. I think that the need to be proactive was when we pulled you out of school,
Right.
and so maybe in retrospect, we, I was really just kind of taking it all in, and it wasn't until we pulled you out of the school system that I felt I had a job to play.
Okay. All right. I do want to dive a little deeper here on this one. And then there's a few more topics we'll go over, and then we'll wrap this one up. And I'm so happy you guys are joining us here. This is a lot of fun. We're going to have to do this again.
I will be happy to do it again.
Awesome.
For you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So there's parents that may not be able to pull their kid out of public school, and there's also parents that you have the husband and wife, and do they go in together? How did you and dad have that conversation? Was dad resistant because it's emotional and he doesn't want to, he may have a hard time dealing with that, or were you two a team? Tell us about this.
For the most part, we were a team. The meetings weren't, so frequently put together that dad wasn't able to be there. He wanted to be there. There was a handful of meetings that he couldn't be there, and I was there. But for the most part, we were there together.
Why is it important for parents to go together?
Oh gosh. Well, in the case of me and dad, I have my own processing issues. So in our case, it was very important to me that I had dad there, because I listen and I need to hear it again, but you can't hear it again. So dad would come away and we would talk about it, and that was when I would be able to hear it again. So for me, he was kind of my messenger of information many times. And there are many times where we would hear something and talk about it, and he would want to make a move, and I would, like I told you about when we did the middle school thing, and I wanted you to try to make it happen in public school, and he didn't. And we kind of kept each other on a balance, as opposed to just feeling like we weren't in it as a team. We were a team with it, for sure. And that's not always the case and not always possible, but that was for our situation.
Nice. Okay, that's really great.
And not every family is in a situation where they're able to pull the child out of public school, and if that was our situation, we would have together made it happen.
Right.
But we weren't interested in fighting.
Right. And I'll say this too, and again, if you're watching this and pulling your child out of school is not an option, I will say there's many things, but the one thing that I like to talk about the most on this in particular is communication. Communication is the one thing that it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how many resources you have. That's the thing that you are in control of, is the way you communicate, and that's the thing that we can learn together. And communication when it comes to advocacy, understanding who you are as a learner, even in the face of teachers misunderstanding you as the family, I think this is a key opportunity, especially now that everyone's together in the house. This is a chance to rebuild the structure, to say, look, we're a team here, and the path is going to be different. Because I think that's what you guys had to realize, is that my path was going to be different. College may not be in the question, but you know what? It will definitely be a goal. but it's not going to be hanging over my head, right? I mean,
I will say that especially in these unusual circumstances, the silver lining is that we are all together. For some of us, for an ability to be able to embrace our children and, you know, look, I have my levels of frustration, we all do, but to try to learn about our children during these times and not be frustrated. If we can get to what is making your child tick and, you know, what is their superpower, to really embrace that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right, let's move on from communication a little bit. I want to talk about habits and routines because you are the queen of habits and routines. You're a yoga teacher, you're an athlete, you walk a lot of miles a day, and I admire and I look up to your ability to stick in routines, especially when there's an event that could knock you off. And as a parent, there's a lot of spontaneous things that choices that may come up. So I do want to talk about this a little bit on habits and routines and what are some tips for moms and even for moms to teach their kids about habits and routines while we're all home.
Well, I definitely think we've all been tested and challenged during this time. Habits and routines is what helps me think straight, doing, you know, the same thing, pretty much knowing what I need to do daily to make my head clearer, and but it's not been easy. To have maybe before bedtime, I know I do the 3 things that I want to accomplish in the next day, and you know, that's, you know, as you are a young adult now, I don't know how you seem to have been working on what your routine to make you successful for the day, but it's important to have a plan. As you end one day going into the next day, it's very important to have a plan for what you want to get done for everybody, whatever age, especially now, to have some kind of a semblance of a plan.
That's so good. That's so good. Isn't she awesome? And all of you guys are awesome, I do have to say. I do enjoy this because I think moms have this instinct, and I respect it a lot. And okay, so I want to talk about, is there anything that you want to mention or bring up?
I am being guided by you.
Excellent. Let's talk about siblings. And how did Cindy and Max, I'm the oldest, so how did you have the parents sit at Max differently? Did you have certain rules on attention that you were going to give to me versus sit at Max? And how did you balance that amongst the siblings?
So we didn't do a great job with that. Look, you know, you give attention to your need, and Jacob needed a lot of guidance and a lot of attention, and, you know, all in retrospect. So I didn't have someone mentoring me, telling me, you know, it's not like we ignored our other 2 children, but I would say that when it came to homework, you know, Sydney and Max were much more self-sufficient, and you needed more attention, and we gave it to you. And it wasn't really until everybody was just a little bit older that we realized that, wait a second, you know, we need to be spreading this out a little bit better.
I think that just shows that there's everyone has their own way of doing it, and no one gets it done perfectly. And I see that Heather has also a Cindy and a Max. Is there a Jake in there too? Because that would be crazy. Yeah, I guess that, and I'm going to bring on my siblings in another video and we'll talk about this, because for you guys watching that have other kids that are being impacted as well, that's a real conversation that we can have together. So I want to say that I would say the last question I want to ask you is, for everyone watching this, is there any words of wisdom or pieces of advice that you can leave our community as a success story that you are, having parented a child from the beginning in elementary school all the way through college? And I mean, you're still parenting me, so she's not done yet, but but through school, what can you share with our community?
I am a communicator. It's not okay for me that my kids say, after I ask, how was your day? I learned to ask more specific questions than just how was your day. So being able to reach your children, not being okay with them, especially in this day of technology, not being okay with everybody kind of just dispersing into their own space, talking to your children, really taking an interest in your children, and making sure that when you are talking to them, that they're talking to you as well and not looking down at a screen. Like, really make it so that, and this is such a hard time to do that, but I say, take it on as your greatest challenge to learn about your children during this time when you've got them here with you. And communication. Don't be okay with one-word answers. Ask more questions. These are your children. Be okay. You're not prying. You want to learn about them and have a relationship with them. And that is what was the most important thing to me.
She's so good. You're so good, I want to say. And guys, if I do want to call out Sherry Goldstein for a minute, because she's had something very good I want to say and share with everyone. She talked about that it's important, routines are important, but play and imagination are also very important. She went on to say, I hope people don't think that routine means schedules and being signed up for classes. Of course, that can't happen now anyway, so let your kids play.
Yeah.
That is,
I would say that you, as a young child, and I'm not scheduling my kids for classes, so I am not in that mode. So I really appreciate the reminder, Sherry, to talk about the play. But man, Jake, you were the most amazing imaginary play. You took that on. That was your trains, your Thomas the Tank Engine. You would build your trains every day. There would be a different setup, and you would spend hours with the trains and watching the wheels go back and forth. And that was really a very happy, peaceful time for you.
And I still do that, by the way. You can get as old as you can keep growing, and you'll never lose that sense of child, just who are child within you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, guys, I think that's it. I'll stay on for a little bit longer to answer some questions, but for those of you that don't know, I run a mentorship program for kids from 3rd grade into high school, and we're working on how to build self-confidence with the way they learn and through navigating new learning environments. So please, for more information, visit my website, www.superpowerconsulting.com, and or reach me out and shoot me a message. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Till next time, I have 2 very special guests coming on, and look out for that post this week. And that being said,
Thank
Nice.
you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show.
Wonderful.
And if you have a good name, let me know because I'm trying to think of one. All right, guys, stay healthy out there and wash your hands for me. Bye.